gonna keep the stream open on the other one. Yeah, we should be live.
I think so. I think we are.
Yeah, we will find out the hard way.
The best way to find anything out, the hard way.
Hello, Crispy. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, Z, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the invite. I'm glad to be here. This is our first stream together, I think. So first of many.
I think I might have gotten lucky the very first time I've shown up on Tear of Your Skin.
Oh, I think you're right.
To be there.
I was there for that. Yeah. Well, this is our first official one. We'll call it the first official.
Yeah. All right. Nicholas already in the chat. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
So he's always there for the aftermath. Yes. Yeah, Nicholas and me have been, he really helped me getting into the 4D roleplay. The first playmate with together with Rick, of course.
Yes. Well, I've been enjoying your games. I think they're great. The Barotrauma one is the Primal one. They've been really good. Excellent.
Yeah, and if things work out, the Numenera games will be online.
Yes, yeah, I'm looking forward to those too.
Yeah, Rick wanted to make real cool edits for those to make it more of a VR experience.
Oh yeah, okay. That sounds like Rick. he does a lot with that. He's our resident techie.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this is the aftermath. We are here together with Detective Crispy and me, Detective Sonalar, finding out what happened at the scene of the crime, marking out the bodies, finding who shot first.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. We got our chalk outlines all ready to go. We got all the little rulers for scale so we can take pictures. Little plastic bags to gather the evidence, little paper tents with numbers on them so we can really, all these crime scenes we will exhaustively investigate.
We have to figure out if the donuts were there before us or not.
Yes, that's right. And were they honey glazed? Were there sprinkles? Jelly filled? We'll find it all out.
Ooh, jelly filled. Okay, so I named the stream Verbing in role-playing games as the follow-up to Mr. Max's do not say you do, you feel, you think. Would you mind to sum it up what his pointers were? So we have a baseline for what to look for.
So what he was talking about is that we don't want to get into the habit of just dictating out to someone, to the person that's supposed to be role-playing. We're telling them all of the things that are happening to them in a sense that we're taking control of that character. And as soon as we start to take control of that character, then we're the one that's role-playing the character. And the player, what are they doing? They're just waiting for a cue to roll a dice. That's it. They're no longer role-playing. And so Max, what was so good about Max's video, which is relatively short video, he went through it and said, okay, there's times where it makes sense for you to be speaking in second person, telling the player what their character is experiencing. And then there are times where it's just not appropriate, and it would be better to leave that in the domain of the player. So that's a brief summary of what he was saying. It was also the term you're using, verbing, I believe is coined by our friend Matt over at Tomb of Lime Gaming, where he had said that. He had said avoid verbing, where you plus verb. And that is essentially taking control of the PC, the player character, which should be something that is avoided. It can't always be avoided, as per Max's outline, where he went through, where sometimes, you know what, it's not going to be avoided, nor should it be avoided. But in many cases, and I imagine some of them that we'll watch together now, you'll see that the verbing has taken over, and the player is no longer in control of their character.
Yes. Now, some of the examples are clearer than others. I don't think I found any positive examples. We will see. We will
That's not
find
a
out the hard
surprise.
way.
It's probably not a surprise, Z. And I haven't seen any of these, just so to be clear to everyone out there. I have not seen any of these clips before. So
Yeah. All right, let's see if I can make this happen. Putting this on stage. Now this
okay.
is from myself. It's 3 years old.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite the map. It's pretty busy. There's lots of things on it.
Yeah, that was before with this group. They did not want to do video cameras,
Okay.
so we used the Roll20 app.
Mhm.
Wait, I actually did an overlay for this, so you can see the Discord overlay with our avatars.
I see. Okay.
Freedom. All right. You just tell stop whenever you're ready to talk about it.
Okay. I'm going to make some notes. Let's go for it.
Damage and 7 damage.
I thought, and then there was another one, right? There was
Yeah.
2. There was 9.
Yeah, you took 3 damage and 7 damage. The bite and the claw was 9 damage.
Bite and claw.
Of course, it has to buffer now. I don't understand why.
Well, while we're waiting for it to
3
buffer.
7.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just going to say there's an example here of verbing, which I think is not a problem. And that, Z, is where I hear your voice saying, you took this damage. Like, I would just, the only suggestion I would make to that is just say the damage. It's assumed that you've taken that. Like, if we want to build a hedge around the control that the player has over their own character, then you don't have to say you took the damage. You could just say 3 damage, 5 damage, and they understand. Oh, that's what I've taken. Okay, yeah. All right, let's see if it's buffered here a bit.
Now I was thinking, I was looking for a specific part, but it's not the one that I was looking for. So maybe it's showing up later.
Okay.
Silence, it's your turn.
Yay!
There.
Silence should now see that the Minotaurs will not bother him.
I don't know, something about streaming my own YouTube has been very weird, and I'm not sure why.
It's a YouTube Inception thing, Z.
Maybe.
I mean, it's sometimes required that you say it's silence. It's your turn. Again, I don't consider that to be verbing so much. Let's just see here. Here we go.
3 damage and 7 damage.
Okay.
Oh, that's back at the point talking about the damage.
Yep. Here we go. And it should be silence coming up next.
I thought, and then there was another one, right? There was 2. There was 9.
Yeah, you took 3 damage and 7 damage. The bite and the claw was 9 damage.
Bite and claw 3 and 7. Okay.
All right. I'm not sure where it is, but the thing I wanted to mention is there was a critical 1 rolled. So what I did is I gave the players the control of a helpful NPC was aiding in the quest. And the player used the NPC to shoot a crossbow and roll the 1.
Okay.
And while we are trying to figure out what's happening with a 1, I said, like, she feels the crossbow, like, mechanics break in her hands.
Okay.
But I'm telling the players what happens to what the NPC is feeling. So I did like a double verbing. I'm not telling you how you feel, telling you what somebody else feels that you wouldn't feel.
Right.
How do you? Is this information that should ever be told to a player?
Yes, but probably from the voice of the NPC. So she, the NPC with the crossbow that has just had a catastrophic failure, she yells out. Like I think it would be fine. In fact, it'd be preferable because it stays within the like it's still role playing. You would role play that NPC as like, broken piece of junk. She throws it on the ground, right? Or like something like that, or it snaps back and she grabs at her arm, which is now injured, or whatever. Like you didn't say to them, "Oh, she just broke her crossbow." She lets the party know in her voice that her crossbow just broke.
See. My crossbow is malfunctioning. So.
Yes.
It's breaking apart.
Yeah. Or like you could describe it flying apart. The arms, the tension in the arms suddenly snaps. And she cries out in alarm as the crossbow is ruined. She drops it on the ground. Bolt goes flying off wide, careening way off target. I would do it that way instead of just saying her, she rolled a 1, so the crossbow broke. Have her communicate that, because then it's not it's a disembodied voice that's describing something that happened to that NPC. It's the NPC. It happened to her, so she should be the one that describes it.
That is a noble way I've role played like 3 to 5 years ago. I mean, even longer. But those are the ones that I've made an effort to put videos on YouTube.
Oh, that was good. Good for you. Good.
Playing the D&D. And that is just how I'm saying we because I feel like everybody learned it this way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Roll20, maybe use even Discord and just having the battle map on a website to play over.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I've done it too. Yeah, absolutely, I've done it exactly like that. Maybe worse. It sounded like you were better at it than I was.
And this one, I actually got a special guest to be the 6th player to play an evil guy, like a possessed monk. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it felt very much like, okay, GM, what is my line again? It's this. Yeah. This is your background.
Yeah.
Because he jumped in to play the bad guy, but he didn't have the background knowledge of what happened so far.
Right. So you have to coach him along. Oh, you knew this.
Yes.
You know that. Yeah.
It was fun, but also, that's
tricky.
A lot of passion, I would say. A lot of passion. All right. Ready for the next
I'm ready. Yeah, let's go into this next one. Hopefully it won't buffer as much. It's not your channel, so maybe it'll be easier.
Let's see.
Oh, these guys. Okay.
So as she's looking down at you,
can you turn the volume up a bit, see?
Yes.
Let me just so I could hear it a little
Listening to the beginning of your sentence for a minute, and you see there's a moment recognition. And then once that form takes place, her expression goes extremely dark.
Ooh. How dare you mock him? Mock me! You're mine!
And so you take the rest of your turn if you want. You can make sure you have a movement.
Will I use you wrestle with it?
Yeah, that was the point I wanted to show.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on this? Let's start with you, Z, and what you think, and then I'll weigh in afterwards.
I mean, for me, it's like crimes against roleplay implies that they've broken something, but in their social contract, this is part of the game. We're playing the board game. We're like laughing. We're having fun, but the roleplay is the part that gets stepped out on to do the battle play. So he's describing her actions, and then he switches over to the roleplay part.
Yeah, where there's a clear line between the two, and I'd rather there's not a clear line. The verbing here, of course, is the you see this. Why not just say what is there? Like Shauner often says, like he just makes the point of like, you know what, you don't have to tell the player that his character sees this. Just describe what is seen. It's implied that the character sees. I don't mind. I don't mind what, you know, obviously, who am I to criticize the great Matt Mercer? These are all voice acting people. Like, honestly,
absolutely,
don't compare yourself to voice actors. Role play is not voice acting. It's anyway. So, I mean, the biggest crime against role play here is that he's wearing a vest over a t-shirt. I think we can just leave it on that. That is a crime. Okay, just gentlemen, you don't wear a vest over your t-shirt, please. All right, just don't.
No, I have to throw my one vest out of my.
You can wear vests are okay. I mean, there's a place for vests. I have vests, but you don't wear a vest over a t-shirt, especially a graphic tee. Okay, just don't.
Oh no, yeah, that's a big
no. I mean, I can't. There's a crime there, but it's just a totally different thing that we're watching here. This is not. I would say that's not a. If we were to take the same scenario and we were trying to role play it out, I would just take out that first part of his. Can we watch it again? Would you mind if we just watch that again? Just I don't know if we.
Yeah. Do you want me to? Only his reaction, or
just go back a little bit, like just what we said before. I just want to hear him telling the player, you know, kind of taking charge.
You like formed. So as she's looking down at you, like formed in shadow, kind of listening to the beginning of your sentence for a minute, and you see there's a moment recognition, and then once that form takes place, her expression goes extremely dark.
Ooh. How dare you mock him? Mock me! You're mine!
And so you take it.
Okay. Yeah. I can't get past the vest now. I got to say, the vest is really. He's an excellent voice actor. They're all actors, right? So they're acting, but.
They're all voice actors, and of course, like overlapping into normal actors, like being on camera all the time now.
I just don't think that it's a reasonable expectation for people to set for themselves. You can be a phenomenal role player and not have the voices or not do the dramatic, you know, speaking. You can still be a great role player without that. So hopefully the next guy won't be wearing a vest over a graphic tee. Please don't do that.
That's the whole point of showing Critical Role. It's the compare and contrast of role play. Like, is it
to me? It feels more like an audition. Like it feels like it's more of an audition, and then these are fellow actors that are cheering on an audition. Like they don't. I don't know. Like. I'm looking at the players there, and I mean, they're all excited to see his performance. I don't know. I guess there is a performative aspect.
They're all in combats, and they're all like, every time a player makes a cool phrase, they're like, yes.
Yeah.
And if they take a 50 damage, they make like, no. It's like, okay, some of it is definitely played up because you have a camera pointed at your face. But they don't know what the roles are until they happen.
I don't think I've ever watched one of these from end to end. Like I've seen clips, but I've never seen one like the whole thing. I guess people get attached to the personalities, and that's fair enough, I suppose.
I've watched a lot of Critical Role.
Yeah.
And they were not my first watch. So I already had a library to compare and contrast. That's like the big complaint is the setting expectations to be like professional voice actors at your home table. That's the big problem, right?
That is the big problem, Z. You're not going to be that. And it's okay not to be that. That's totally fine. You don't have to be that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's entertaining to see actors act, but is it role
Yeah,
play? I don't
that's
know. Feels a little railroady too. My impression is that they've already scripted out a lot of what's going to happen. Now, that's not to say that dice can't have an impact. It's just, it seems to
yeah.
me
It's
like there's already plot points that are set in place, and it's
what would you define under a script? Because I feel like a bunch of people get hung up on definitions and not
true.
understanding the meaning behind it.
Yeah, what I mean by that is there's at the onset of the game, it's already known. All of the unknowns are known to someone. So all of the unknowns are
Mhm.
in the GM's little black book, and the
They have
game
been
is
fleshed out.
they've already been fleshed out. He's already done the whole arc, all of the 3-act play, whatever it is. All of that has already been decided in advance.
Mhm.
And the game really is the players trying to guess what comes next. And if they guess correctly, then the next thing happens, and they're seen as winning the game. And if they guess
And
incorrectly, then the game master piles on all sorts of penalties until they realize their mistake and get back on track. So to me, it feels more like it's a scripted in the sense that there's very little variation from what was originally written in the book, the
yeah,
plan, his session plan, and what eventually happens in the game session. So that may be unfair criticism to him. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it seems very much a pre-planned sequence of events rather than things that happen spontaneously. But you've
I
watched
would
more of it
say
than I do, so maybe I'm wrong on that.
absolutely. So I have watched the 2 seasons and like half of the 3rd season. So that's easily like over 300 episodes.
Oh wow, wow, that's a lot. That's a big commitment.
Yeah, it's I can play some video games and listen to roleplay sessions.
Oh sure, yeah, in the background. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of the longer they play,
Hmm.
the more areas have like, oh yeah, this area was completely created by a writer. Like I got a writer in to determine the whole
Right.
desert region, what factions are there, what monsters play, and who plays what happens with what. So when the players go there, there's what they explore, the players don't know yet usually. But the GM knows,
The GM
some
already
of the
knows.
writers,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
GM knows. And the
And the
writers are
writers
helping
know.
out to define
Mhm.
it.
See
And
this is a bit of a tangent, Z, if you'll allow me, but
yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
that what you've touched on there when you were given the explanation, I think of there's a new RPG. A lot of people talking about this Brandon Sanderson. He's a fantasy author. He writes a lot,
Oh yeah.
and he's got a new RPG out. And then of course there's the Dragonlance RPG, and there's others that are all based on novels or stories that have been published.
Yeah.
And I worry with settings like those that really like that, and so they're going to rush out and buy a Brandon Sanderson role playing game. Are they not just going to end up playing the same story, the same plot that they've read in the books? Like, are they already limiting their imagination to what the author has already published? A
I see.
good example of this would be Star Wars games. How many Star Wars
Yeah.
games are so limited in what the players can do because they can only really do what they've seen on screen or maybe read in a book or a comic or something. I don't know. I wonder if there's quite a bit of verbing that goes on in those settings because there's too much concern about staying true to the original author's creation. So we're going to play a Game of Thrones role-playing game. There is one that exists. And
Yes.
so that means we have to stay true to what George R.R. Martin would want to have happen in his books. all that entails. So if we're running it in his setting, that means we have to play his stories. Do you see what I mean?
I'm looking for the problem in here because
There may not be a problem.
I'm not convinced that it's a negative.
Well, in some ways, it's. But I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative, because then everyone understands. Well, in this universe, these things exist as such, and everyone knows that, and so you can play within that. My concern isn't that so much. My concern is more that you're going to.
You have to fight Darth Vader.
Yeah,
or something
it's like every Star Wars show is about the same super weapon to destroy the universe or galaxy or whatever.
You have to play in Tatooine. You have to be in Coruscant.
Yeah, so you have to go to those like. It seems limiting.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Meet Leia. It's like, why?
why
is she talking to me? She's a diplomat.
Just shoot her? No, she's plot armor. Like or Brandon Sanderson's thing. Like, okay, well, we know that, and I've read a couple of those books, the Stormlight Archives. So you already are thinking, oh, I'm going to be like this character in the book rather than a character in the world. And I don't know if that's. I'm just not sure I'm as interested in that as being something new, something fresh. I don't know. Just an aside.
Is it
a crime against role play? Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. The big part is for me is setting. So if you have a novel whose setting is different than other fantasy, sci-fi, modern novels, fictions, then you have like a new playground to play with.
Yeah.
And to not get tied down by what's it called? Al-Gaib from the Dune.
Oh yeah, that's right. Lisan Al-Gaib.
Yeah. Don't get tied down having to have the Emperor on screen or any of the major characters. I would like avoid it at all costs, because if I put them in, I expect my players wanting to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, can I murder this guy?
Yeah.
And how hard does the role-playing game do it for me? Because sometimes it's a lucky shot. Sometimes it's impossible.
Yeah. All right. So you've got another clip here, Z, that we should look at. That was.
Yeah.
There's hopefully no vest involved in this one.
I can promise you no vest. Let's see if let's see if those are like real role players here. I don't know.
They might be.
They look funny. Gotta find the right link. There we go.
Oh no, these guys are terrible. This will be. Can you believe this? Oh man.
You tell me when to stop the clip.
Stop. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Drizzle. The three of you have just finished crossing an ancient dwarven bridge that spans a deep ravine. On the other side, where you've just crossed here, in front of you is a ruined keep and the legendary Gascon's Well. The entire structure has seen many years and has fallen into complete disarray. The walls are covered with creeping vines. It's not the same shirt, Nick.
ivy.
Trees have grown up around the structure.
It looks like it from here, but it's not.
Where there was once a barbican.
Okay, stop here.
Just so this is going on and on. We probably watched enough of it. The setting here. So just so everyone knows, I'm committed a lot of verbing here. But this is the very beginning of the session, and if Max could give me a pass, he would give me a verbing pass here, because when you're initially starting out, I think it's absolutely fine to say you are here, before you is this, or you've just crossed the desert and have arrived at the oasis. That's just to set things up. You don't want to continue to do that, because as you continue to do that, you're taking away the agency of the players. You're now starting to move them around. You're teleporting them where you want them to go. You're deciding where they're looking. You're deciding what they're thinking. You're deciding how they're feeling, and you want to avoid that. But when you set up a game, or when you first start a game, I think that it's reasonable to start off with some limited verbing. Here's the description. Now, it may look like I'm reading there. I wasn't actually reading. I didn't have any block text or anything to read through. I was just looking down at a map that I had in front of me. And yeah, I'm glad you picked this one, because that is an example of me saying, you've just crossed a bridge. You've just, before you is this, you see this. Okay. At the beginning,
Absolutely.
sure. But beyond that,
Yeah.
don't, you want to avoid doing that.
But that is one of the cases of, yes, describe where the players are. It's the beginning of the session. You lay the groundwork, like, this is the starting line, go.
Yeah. Go.
And after that, the players can run wherever they want to.
Exactly.
So,
Z. That's important.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that Mr. Max like gives the green light, right? It's also the thing that Shauna reiterates, like, the only time you say you is you are here.
Yes.
And then you let go.
And let go, and then they decide where they go. And if they're not clear with what they see, then they'll take an action on their turn to look around. And then that's a cue for me to flesh out the details around them. Yeah, you're being called.
Why are you being called out, Nick?
I don't think you're being called out. When are you being called out? Is Nick next? Or do we have a clip for Nick? That'll be great.
Maybe. Well, I'd have to check again. There's one more clip in there.
Okay.
Let's see. But yeah, the other thing that I was thinking as I'm listening to you describe it, and I love the imagery already. I didn't even notice that it's like an ancient woven bridge crossed first. To me, that already gives it a more imposing image in my head of what it takes to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I've had it with my friend who set up a session where he basically took like 25 minutes describing what we do to get from one city to the next. And the next city is where he wanted to start the next session, basically. But it took 25 minutes to get there. It costed us our cash, and we got a negative trade for being exhausted at the end of it, like at the start of the session. And that one got me so infuriated. I told him I'm leaving the campaign. I might have overreacted a bit, but I was definitely like, okay, look, I've learned some new rules, and you're breaking all of them.
You're breaking all the rules. There was several months ago, it's probably almost a year ago now, there was a critique that Rick had on his game from some other game masters, including Shauner, that were looking at it and giving him some feedback on how he could improve his game. And one feedback that he received is something that I immediately saw as useful for my own practice. And the feedback was this: if you have already in mind that the adventure starts in a certain place, then just start it in that place. So in other words, don't waste time with the mundane, because the mundane can happen. But if you want to just kick it off, kick it off where you want it to start, right? Like, so in your example, I don't think anything would have been lost if in his description, he just said, having traveled an arduous journey over many miles, you arrive at such and such city. Different architecture, whatever it is, however he wants to paint the picture in your minds, but just start them there. Don't say, well, you start here, but you really shouldn't be here. You need to travel for a week to get to this other place. Well, why don't we just start there? Like, I would be much more inclined to just start where the obstacle is. Start them at the obstacle. So just some
Yes.
feedback that I think is useful.
Unless the journey is supposed to like
Yeah,
build character, like
or the
maybe
journey's the
make
obstacle.
players want-
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
start
that
with
could
the.
be.
So if the journey itself is the obstacle, well, then that's fine. Just start it with the obstacle of the journey. But if it's more of an urban intrigue adventure, and it just so happens that it's in a different place, well, then, I mean, I would be much more inclined to say, all right, it was a tough journey. Maybe make some dice rolls. All right, so you've lost a quarter of all of your gold and whatever it is, and maybe something happened to you, and players can decide what it is that happened to them, and then we start with the actual obstacle. Nothing wrong if the travel itself is the obstacle. Well, then, yeah, let's role play that. That's nothing wrong with that. We'll start with that. But
I know in my, like at the start of the year, I've ran some D&D games where the players are traveling from one big city to the next along the big trade routes. And I was role-playing out traveling along the trade route, but afterwards I'm thinking, why are we role-playing like the most mundane travel scene possible? I managed to spice it up on the way, but it was very much like, okay, maybe like I'm selling as a GM that I want my players to role play, right? Like I'm trying to get them into character, but then we act out being in a tavern or being on the road, like looking around for the tourist guide. It's like, oh
exactly.
my god, what am I doing?
exactly. Yeah, that's
yes. Yeah,
I did see
there was one
your primal session. Nick is asking for how I thought you did. I thought the primal session was great. That was really good. Liked it a lot. It was good.
Yeah, Crispy's thumbs up.
Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up from me. Yeah.
About describing where to start, I get a feeling, okay, you want them to start at the dungeon, that's for sure, because you got the whole dungeon mapped out for you. But you start describing them crossing a bridge first to get to a dungeon. So my question comes, how many steps do you describe the players taking to reach the starting place? And is there any argument to not just cut it all? Like, what's the benefit if we want to do a bit more?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So is it even necessary to mention the Dwarven Bridge or any of that?
Yeah.
Could we not just forego all of that? And I think you probably could. You probably could just cut all of that. My reason for including it was I was trying to evoke an emotion in the player characters that this is not something that's right next to town. This was something.
They have traveled far to get here.
Help if you can't expect help to be around the corner. There's not going to be the cavalry is not coming to save you here. This is a remote part in the wilderness and overgrown, and so that's why I included it. But you raised a good point. You don't have to.
There's no gift shop outside the
There's no
dungeon
gift
with
shop.
magic
No,
potions.
there's not some caravan right next to it, or like they're selling little miniaturized versions of the bridge. On this side here.
They sell monster minis of the creatures living inside.
That's right.
You can just look at the options to know what's happening, what will happen when you go down there.
That's right. Yeah, no, that was the reason for it. But you know what? I think I'm glad you asked that question, because it has me thinking, really, and the reason why it was just that is that, well, this is the last thing before they arrive at the obstacle itself. So, and it situates the dungeon on the other side of a chasm, or maybe on top of a hill, or it's a little bit of geography, I think, is helpful so that players can interact with it if they choose to.
I like it. Yeah, I was thinking, like, okay, maybe we do a session in a dungeon, but I describe like walking through the jungle for days.
Mhm.
You reach the dungeon, basically, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, okay, it's a jungle, so
Sure.
it's
And that's
hot,
one
it's
sentence.
oppressive, it's full of
Yeah.
insects. Maybe there are like apes in the shadows wanting to rip us apart.
Well, and that's where good players will they'll impose or they'll insert those details of the
Yeah.
biting insects and it's hot, sweltering heat, and my feet are rotting off or whatever. I mean, it's just
Yes.
or
I
it's
cannot carry this
loud.
cuirass. It's turning me into a corpse.
Yeah, that's right. Like sweat pouring down my face underneath this heavy chainmail that's chafing, and I'm wearing
The
a
dwarf
vest
is
over
constantly
my
complaining, like
everyone's complaining about everything, and
yes.
it's just awful.
Except the elf. The elf is fine.
No, and the elf is wearing a vest over a graphic tee, and he's
Yeah.
and we're all plotting how to kill the elf.
Oh,
the next,
it's
if
one
he
of
ever
the
slept.
city elves.
Oh, he's
Oh
a
yeah,
city
this
elf.
elf, he came from Baldur's Gate. It's like the newest fashion.
Yes, that's right. Some graphic tee and a vest. A vest. Why is he wearing a vest? All right, so we got another one.
Crimes against roleplay. Myself.
Oh, okay. I know this one. I've watched this one.
Ooh, yeah. You feel the
Few more.
substance that has been picked up from the suit in your pockets. Pregnant pause.
That's fine. I don't. Silence is your friend.
I suddenly remember the bag of unknown substance I recovered from that Mark II suit.
Oh yes, this is the.
With my hands on the pocket and slowly pull it out and looking at it, smelling it, seeing for any signs of labeling.
There is an inscription. It's a bit washed. Some of the words are gone. But the words are gone. You can make out it's saying Calixonite. This was also me looking at the note. What is it called?
Calixonite. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Now,
okay.
I hope it came through. What did I do? What crimes did I commit?
Okay, there was 2 crimes here, both in the yellow. I would say not so much the red. It's yellow. Because what my understanding here, Z, is that you wanted to give this cue to the player that because from a previous session they had found this drug, right? Now, so this is proving that I've watched this session. So I'm not just some poser that claimed he watched it. I watched it. And so you come across this. Sometimes this will happen where the player has it, and it's just that the player has forgotten that the character has this item. The character wouldn't have forgotten it, but the player has forgotten that the character has this. And so you're reminding the player that his character has this substance in his pocket. So you that's my understanding is why you say you feel the substance, and you pull it out.
Absolutely. Yes.
And my only critique of this is I would say this is probably something I would do just like you've done with a slight tweak. You could simply say a substance in your pocket, and you're still using your, right? But then he has to then take it out from there. Oh, okay, I take it out. And then when you said you can, because he's looking for a label. Now, Jeremiah, just so everyone knows here, all 3 of you are not native English speakers, yet you're role playing in English. That's fantastic. As someone who speaks another language, poorly, it'd be really hard for me to do what you guys are doing. I would
It's
struggle.
not easy.
It's not easy at all. So kudos to all three of you. But when he pulls it out and he looks for a label, and you say that the inscription or the printing on the words on the of the label have been washed away, but you can see, I would just say less, right? Like I
Yeah.
would just say less. My only suggestion here, and I wouldn't say this rises to level of crime. If it's a felony, it's not a felony, it's a misdemeanor. You could make out, you could just say faded text, the word collectionite.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. And so then he understands. Oh yeah, I can just make it. It's collectionite. It's collectionite. Sorry, and that's that. Then he can take it from there. So definitely not a red zone here, Z. I think that it was important that Jeremiah, or the player playing Jeremiah, remembered that his character had this item from the previous session. So just a
Now,
reminder.
I would love to add that the player hears, oh, I feel the thing in my pocket.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. And then chooses to ignore it.
Yes. Yeah. I could be like, what is or he takes it out and just, what is that? Forget it. He just
throws it
ground.
out.
Yeah.
Or he taps it in the pocket and says, I'll deal with you later.
Yes.
Speaking to himself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That can happen. That's all right.
And it would be so funny as a game master. I would be like, oh my God.
Yeah, that would be one of those things afterwards you could laugh about. Like, dude, the thing in your pocket was so important and you just totally threw it on the ground. What were you thinking? And he's like, well, I was role-playing that my character didn't care about that. Like, okay.
Yes, his name was Plot McGuffin.
That's funny.
I do have a friend who he speaks a lot like in these movie terms. Oh, it's the MacGuffin, it's the red herring, it's the such and such. Because he played so many role-playing games, like he sees the code. There's code happening and he sees blondes, brunettes, black-haired girls. That's all he sees.
Yes.
So it's like, but it's not bad. It's the tools to tell a cool story, like for a story to be compelling.
Mm-hmm.
So to not use them would mean, okay, I'll be just like having a worse experience than if we do use them.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of oh nice. We have a Mr. Max in here.
Mr. Max himself.
He missed his own entrance. That's okay. It was the good looking guy in the last clip.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. He was classing up the place.
Yeah. So well, it's getting me on attention. What do you think about I really like creating tension in role-playing games. Like I want there to be tension that players have to decide what to do. Like it should be dangerous or it should be like dramatic. Like there's no tension. I feel like why are we role-playing this part or going over the rules here? Because there's nothing worth of note happening.
Yes.
How do you feel about the tension? And because that would lead into the point of like writing a story, basically like telling the story to the players.
Yeah,
that's like the bad side of it, I guess, to describe it.
I think if there's things happening, like what I liked about the session that you shared this last clip from, was that there's things happening to the sub. I understand that they're in some kind of submersible craft. It's underwater. There's other things in the ocean, of course, all the time. I'm picturing this a scene from Das Boot or something like that, where the water is dripping and there's the constant creaking of the vessel as it experiences pressure from everywhere. There's time elements that are involved. if you sit on your laurels and do nothing, then not only will the world continue to move, it'll move beyond you, or you'll miss an opportunity, and that's an opportunity that could have had all sorts of ramifications. Instead, you have to deal with the consequences of your inaction. So the tension can be a few things. I always like to have a bit of a time pressure. You're sneaking around. The players are having their characters sneak around in Gascon's well, and a few of them are listening at the door. The longer they listen at the door, the more the monsters on the other side of the door have to prepare. The more difficult it will be for them. Reinforcements are coming. They can maybe hear that reinforcements are rapidly approaching.
Oh yeah.
All
They
of those
can
things.
hear the barking of commands between the monsters.
And I think that one of the things, yeah, that's right. Like if you hear them, you hear guttural voices and swords that are short leaves. It's scabbard or
swords
whatever.
drawn, and then now it's complete silence, and you're like, it should not be this silent.
Or it's gone super quiet, or light that's bleeding from underneath the door out into the hallway suddenly extinguishes. So, okay, well now, but I think the thing that it helps with this tension and the pacing side of things and having these trade-offs is keeping your session in a role play that is as close to real time as possible. When players are able to hit the timeout button so that they essentially call time, right? Oh, I'm just going to call time so that they can plan out their next move, as if they're suddenly in this interdimensional bubble where no one can hear them talking and no enemies are doing their own plans, and the weather has stopped and the ground has stopped shaking and the building's not falling down anymore because you've called this timeout. Not having the ability to do that introduces an excellent tension element that, we're real time. This is real time. You're not going to have time to be like, well, I don't know. In my in-person game, what I've gone to is if we're going through and there's something that's happening, there's a major obstacle, maybe it's even combat. If we come around to a player's turn and he doesn't know what he's going to do, then his character doesn't know what they're going to do. And then it just keeps going. Like, in other words, you lose your turn. You act or you lose your turn. Like have to, and I think that helps with the tension too, because it feels frenetic. Feels like everyone's frantic. Like, what do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, maybe somebody doesn't know what to do. I had an experience with this once where it was in a game session, and the party, all the characters are all in peril, and one of them gets trapped in a magical force cage, and he doesn't know at all what he's going to do or what his character is. And he was a good role player. He understood his character had no clue. And so for his turn, for the next several rounds, he's clawing at the ground with his bare hands, tearing his fingernails off as he role plays his character, losing his mind in pure terror, because he was always scared of being imprisoned, or he had claustrophobia or something. And so he was just, and to this day, it's one of those standout moments that, I'm sure you've had these, Z, where in a table,
and the Oscar goes to my player,
and it's like, you know what? And he wasn't doing the Mr. Graphic Tee vest guy. He wasn't doing that. He was just saying, and every time it came around to him, and you could tell there were some other players there that struggled at role play, and you could see they wanted so badly to be like, oh, you just need to do this because I'm like, if you're not saying that, if you're not saying that in character, you're not saying that at the table. You're not going to tell him how to play his character. That's a big no. He's playing the character, and he's playing the characters that's losing his mind.
It's like, dude, just cast a fucking minor restoration on yourself.
Yeah,
you will be fine. It's like, how would I know?
Yes, that's
How
right.
would
You
I
wouldn't
know?
know. You didn't
Yes.
know that. You just wouldn't know that. So yeah.
There's this chance of, okay, I'm my character. I have the spell. I have an idea of what the spell can do, but would I still think about it in that moment?
Good point.
And I have that a lot of the times
Mhm.
when I play the cleric in a D&D party,
Yeah.
and I'm not casting a cure wounds because we are in the middle of combat.
Uh-huh.
And in that case, I was playing a cleric, like a tempest cleric that is also a dwarf on an island.
Okay.
This guy runs into the heat of battle to
Yeah.
slay the enemy first
Right.
and heal when the heat is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We're not doing bandages now. We're doing wounds.
Yes.
Like we're inflicting wounds. We're not doing bandages. I think that
Exactly.
so
I must make sure to push off the enemy so
Sure.
I can heal you and be safe.
yes.
It's like what's it called? Like the first aid. You see
Yeah.
a man unconscious on the street.
Triage.
First, make sure
Yeah.
that no car is coming to
Exactly.
like car to you over.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you pull the body into safety. Then you check for
That's the first step.
wounds.
They
Yeah.
That's what they train you when you do your first aid courses. You can't just run
Yes.
in because you could risk to becoming the next casualty. So you have to
Exactly.
you have to take stock of what's around you. But back on this tension thing, tension's not created by verbing for the player character, because that's what we normally would
Yeah.
do. Back in the battle days, Z, you and I running
You feel
games,
tension.
you feel scared. You are worried about this. You look down at your watch and realize you have less than 2 minutes
about
of
your
oxygen left.
You think about
You do
your dead
this.
mother.
You think about your mother. You think about your cancer diagnosis. You think about all these things.
Yeah.
No. That doesn't create tension. What creates tension is the players themselves role playing that out. And just like my
Yes.
buddy who role played his guy trapped in a force cage, clawing at a stone floor till his fingers bled.
Oh,
That's tension. That's tension, not, and you had a good example of this in your barotrauma game. I'm saying that wrong. What do you call it? It's
no,
the
you're saying it good, right?
I'm saying it okay.
Trauma.
Barotrauma game where Nick is doing this sonar thing, and he's
Yeah.
doing that to introduce more tension into the game session. And I thought that was
Yes,
great that
because
he just did it on
Soldier,
his
he's
own.
like, he's freaking out, like, oh my god, and monsters will see us now. Every time he triggers the switch.
Exactly. So I think that's great. Tension, we can help as the game master introduce more tense situations by ensuring that the world continues to move and players don't get a timeout. No, just wait. No, none of that. We don't have timeouts. I'm like, can we just no, you're not getting that. There's no it's like playing tag. Did you grow up playing tag? Is that a thing in Switzerland where you have a home base where you can't be it as long as you're touching the home base, or there's no home, there's no safe zone. There's no home base.
You're not safe here.
You're not safe here. And you will not be safe
running.
here till we end the session. You can't just stop in the middle of the session and say, hey, I'm too worried about this. I'm just done. No. This is why we look for more serious players that are willing to add to the tension, embrace the fact that there's tension. Don't take the tension away from people. Just let it grow. So I think that
that's definitely the fun part of. Oh,
sure it is.
Oh, I'm dead. Oh, like I made a mistake. Like, oh shit, I don't know how to react to this, and then you see it play out.
Yes.
Most of the time, you're still alive afterwards. Like, oh, you made this mistake. It was not optimal. I'm still alive. My friends are still alive. Okay, let's do something about this.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like most GMs is like, okay, he pushes, and it's not a gun on your head. The gun on your head is the third push or the fourth push.
Yeah.
The first one is, he's grabbing the bulge on the side of his vest.
Yes.
The second push is he pulls out the gun and points it in your direction.
Absolutely.
The third one
Z.
is shooting at you.
Yes. See, that's that I really like your example. I had something like that happen in a game, and what I did to emphasize the fact that there's tension building is just that I started describing smaller things that the enemies were doing to telegraph that this is going to go really badly for you, but without
They look at each other.
saying, they look at each other and one of them nods.
The guy
their hands drop to their
exit.
Revolvers, right? Like they're 6-shooters. Their hands drop on them. Their eyes narrow. They
like change the stance of how to stand.
Exactly.
Before he was relaxed against the pillar. Now he's like white-legged.
And what I was doing is I was trying, because the player in this case was having his character do something obviously suicidal, and I'm okay with people doing that with their characters. If you want to do something obviously suicidal where your guy's just going to die, like we're probably not going to roll dice, you just die, then what I'll do is I'll try to ensure that the player knows this is a very serious situation, but without saying,
yes,
this is a serious situation. That if you do that, you will die, because that's verbing, right? And we're going to try to avoid verbing, because verbing, like Max says, if I take control away from that character, it takes away the tension. The tension is no longer there, because I'm taking over that. And that's why we try to, it sounds silly to say, oh, well, what are you guys so worried about second person for? Why do you care? Well, I care because I want tension in the game, because I want people to be invested in the game such that
I want them to be submerged. They're not immersed. I want them submerged under the water.
In there. I want them to hear the compression of the submarine as this old rusted hulk struggles to maintain against the pressure of this water filled with everything that could possibly want to eat you, and it's all right there. And so random scratches against the hull and all of these things. I don't want to say I don't want to tell the player, Jeremiah, that you can hear this, and that that's this particular type of critter that wants to get into the sub and eat you, and has already eaten half of the crew, right? You don't want to you let them do the tension. And to their credit, both Nick and and the player that was playing Jeremiah, it's not his name, but they were doing that. They were in there, and I think that's possible because the game master's not taking control. You don't take control of the characters unless there's something that some like, okay, sure, you have magic that has now compelled the character to do something. Okay.
Yeah, the one thing I did is say, this is the last session. We are finishing it with the third one. I was hoping to do it on the second one, but time did not permit for it. So for me, it was clear, whatever they choose to do, they have to choose this session. Like, this is not a waiting game.
That's right. That's right.
You can't go back to the Ark and try to escape the depths down here, and you will be laden with debts. Literally, like
because they failed. Yeah, they failed to do anything. They just now they have half the crew. Yeah, exactly.
And the ship is damaged. Who's gonna repair that? The captain who owned everything is also dead. So all of that stuff moves over. Like
creditors will take over. Yep. Creditors will claim
the ship. Then they also have to pay back a bunch of stuff.
That's right.
So that could be also. Right. That would be where I have moved the session if they try to escape. So and escaping would be like one roll. Okay, find your way back to the ship. That's one roll, maybe. And if you fail, then you're lost, and the next big monster notices the tin can. What's happening?
Just a shout out to Max. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but Max and Phil did a impromptu no prep game. And it was in and they rolled to see what it was, and it was in a modern setting, and they rolled to see what game system they were going to use, and they just did it on the fly. And what I thought
Yeah.
was so good about it, as an example of good role play, Max's character is just a normal dude, basically, and he's role playing him having just a terrible day, just an awful day. It just gets worse and
Yeah.
worse
A
and
man
worse.
staving off a mental breakdown.
Yeah, yeah, and then failing, that. And
Yeah.
I would just say, when players embrace the being in character and not having the game master be there as the training wheels, I don't know if you do this in Switzerland, but sometimes when kids are riding a bike or they're learning to ride a bike, they'll put little wheels
yeah.
on the back, just
Yeah,
so the bike will
that's
stabilize.
how I learned. That's how I learned.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the training wheels, right? Verbing for your players is keeping training wheels on those characters. You're just there to make sure, okay, yeah, these players, because if I
So they don't fall over.
they don't, yeah, so they don't ever really come into themselves as better role players, because you're there with the training wheels on to make sure that they either don't get themselves into trouble. Hey, let them get into trouble. Let them make decisions that get them killed, get the characters killed. That's fine. That's part of it. I think that verbing is a sense of gaming with training wheels. Don't have training wheels.
I see.
Just let them go. They'll fall off. They'll skin their knee. They'll be better for it afterwards.
Absolutely. I think so too. And for me, it's a lot about, I've been thinking of like, oh, I want to train my players. So like, I want to train my friends to become better role players. And a lot of it, I mean, that's the part that gets shouted down all the time, having to tell people to find new friends.
It's hard.
But it rings true in the sense of your players have to want it. Because many of them don't. They want to level up. They want to like have a good evening.
Yep.
They don't want to like solve the battle problem with their action economy.
Yes, you're right.
Some want to role play.
Yeah,
but that's not most people.
That's not most. No, I think you're right. See, I try to be optimistic about it by saying that if you can show players there's a different way, and show them how much better the experience is when you do that, then they're more likely to want it for themselves. But some, like you say, I think you're 100% right. Sometimes they just don't want that. They don't want to think. This is I think it's a truism. It's just I'm just going to say it as a postulate that a role player has to be more involved in the game. You have to use more of your imagination. Because if you're just sitting there and saying, okay, what do I roll again? What do I roll for this? Okay. If you're waiting for the game master to tell you what options you have, you are no longer as committed, as engaged in that game than the one that's not waiting for option A or B or C.
If you have to ask for your options, it means you're offloading your responsibility about your character back to the GM.
Yeah, you're just
is running the whole world already.
You're just pushing it all back onto the GM. Okay, you can take this. You can you tell me what to do. I don't want to do it because I can make a mistake. So if you do it, then
what if I do the wrong thing? What if I do the rules wrong? Right?
Yeah.
What if I imagined it wrong? It's like, no, it doesn't matter. If you imagine it wrong, that's fine. Now it's now it's reality.
Yeah,
I don't care if you did a mistake. For me, that's awesome.
Yes,
like
the mistakes. The mistakes can be corrected in game too. Like the mistakes can be corrected. An NPC can turn to him and is like, "What are you talking about? Are you okay? Do you not?"
I don't know where you. Yes, exactly. I don't know where you heard this, but
where did you hear that?
In our region, that's not true at all. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
maybe in your homeland.
so in some cases, it's such a minor transgression
Yes.
why even worry about it? Like, who cares?
Exactly. Yes,
Like,
exactly.
just because the thing about it is those that say, "Oh, you can't do that because you have to." Well, when we watch your games, though, you still have mistakes that happen. So the fact that there's mistakes in interpretation should not be, in my mind, that's a very weak justification for taking control of a player's character. Oh, well, I gotta take control of your guy and tell him what you're doing here and what you're doing that, and I'm gonna tell you what you think
Yeah.
because I don't want you to make a mistake here. Well, that's a terrible. This you even those that do that, they still make mistakes, right?
Yes. Yes. Now, instead of teaching all of your players like how to play the game and helping them along,
Mm.
the fear of, oh, he might make a mistake. Now I have to jump in. You remove both responsibility, but also like it's taking away the courage to try.
Yes, it does.
Like I want my
Absolutely.
players to try something new, think
Yes.
outside of the box, try to do something that your character would do, that you imagine.
Yes.
Like imagine. Like I give you permission to imagine something.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly, Z. No, you've hit it. That's exactly right. That's why
Mhm.
verbing is such a cardinal sin when it comes to role playing, because it takes the imagination away from the player. You're just telling you instead of them as the player imagining, as you described just now. Well, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I'll just wait for GMZ to tell me what I think and what I feel and what I hear and where I go and
Yes.
and what I want. No, this is why it's good to have someone that's a bit of a disruptor in your games. Someone that is obviously going to role play, because otherwise, why are they in your game? But someone like a Phil or a Max, where they'll just decide, no, I'm just not going to do that. My character doesn't want to do
Yes.
that. My character is going to do this other thing. And it feels authentic because they're always thinking of their character. And so they will do something unexpected. Fantastic. Why wouldn't you want that? You want more of that, not less of that. Telling the players where they go, what they think, what they see, all of that, even down to combat things. I think this applies to combat too, Z. Like if you're in a combat
Yes.
situation and now the game master is telling them how it is that they tried to lop someone's head off with the sword. What? Why are you doing that? Are you now role playing the combat too? When does the player get to role play anything? If you're going to be telling them all that they do and all that they feel and all that. Anyway.
Absolutely. That was a big point I've talked about with my Barotrauma players about guys. Because I was trying to verbalize it while we before and after we played of who takes control over what, and I say, you guys take control over shooting the rifle but as soon as the bullet leaves your barrel, it's in my control. So you shoot
Fair enough.
at whatever creature you want. I describe what gets hit. Like you can
Sure.
say that you hit it because you roll dice, and then I can interpret it of like it bounces off, it deflects off, or the bullet hits the backside wall.
Right. Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
oh yeah, I'm striking out with the tentacles at the player, and I roll a die, and if I know that it's a success, I describe it lashing across your body, lacerating you.
Sure.
That's,
and then the player
it's
can
happening.
play that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Or like 1 wound, 2 wound. Leave
Sure.
it at that. How does
Yeah.
the player deal with it? Mostly it's like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
But I'm not telling them you're in so much pain right now.
No.
You're overcome with fear of the terror of this like zombie apocalypse happening in this subway station as you realize how far away you are from your mother and father.
Yeah.
And you
I mean, again, it's the training wheels approach. Like, don't
Yes.
let them do that. And if you, it's such a, especially when it comes to a character's death, it's so much better to let the player take control of that. description.
Oh,
Like his
how did you?
life is
Well,
bleeding
yes.
away. Like, how are you gonna? It's I think it's way cooler for the player to describe their demise. I think that's so
I
much
have
better.
not watched. I have not watched my own game of the news about trauma. But
Mhm.
what did you think of spoilers? He died of the death scene.
I think I thought it was good. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember it now here because I'm did I get all the way to the end of it? I don't know if I did. I thought I did. But refresh my memory. It's a spoiler, obviously, so don't listen to this if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
still
So
watching.
I made them roll a foot check. That was also a little bit iffy because they say they want to run away, run
Mhm.
back to the ship, and
Oh,
I
yes.
say at some point I say roll foot, but they didn't know for what. So when they fail,
Okay.
they just trip over. For
Yeah.
me, when they fail, they get cut off by zombies. But they made their own
Oh,
failures, so I'm not gonna interrupt it.
okay, gotcha.
But that led to the part of one of the characters got hit one too many times, and the NPC offered a hand to the captain, and he refused. No, run off. I will slow you down.
Oh, right. That was Jeremiah. That yeah.
Yes,
He went down with the ship, so to speak. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah. Yeah, it was good
I
stuff.
enjoyed it a lot because for me, it's like I'm giving you. He chooses who gets the advantage to run off, like, or the one who is slower is the one getting attacked next turn, basically.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Will you take the head? But he refused. And that is so awesome. That
It
is
is.
an
It is.
amazing moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's amazing.
He
And
had
it's
full
good.
control.
Full control. Absolutely. I
Yes.
think it's great. Yep.
And then I killed him.
And then you kill him. He chose that. That's fine.
Oh,
So he dies.
I don't.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know when it was the last time I've actually killed a player character. It
Oh.
was very, very. I feel like 10 years younger already.
More character death, yes. I have to say, most of my online games end with my character dying. And I know
Oh,
Max was kind of lamenting this in our playtest of Broadsword, because clearly Phil and I should have seen that the mounted, spearmen so far outclass us that we're just going to
oh,
die. And we have this
oh.
moment. And anyway, it was, he was like, I'm going to just kill you for that. Like, you know what? You should absolutely kill us for that. Let that happen. Let the characters die.
Sometimes it's hard to see what kills you.
Mhm.
But I think most of that problem is the system.
Yes.
When you play D&D on level 1,
Mhm.
everything, a goblin throwing a spear will kill
Yeah.
you if he crits.
It's the house
But
cat.
if
The
you're
house cat problem. Yeah.
if you're level 7, you walk like into the whole goblin cave and cook them all like one after another. They cannot penetrate your armor because you have like so much dexterity. Nothing phases you. Like maybe you drop to half health and you're like, oh, maybe it's time I stop playing reckless here. But
Yeah.
but that breaks the verisimilitude of the world of
Mhm.
well, though it's like literal 4 creatures with spears that can pierce my body and like skewer me,
Mhm.
but it will not kill me because I'm level 7 now. How to deal with that? I guess the answer only choose a better system.
Better
Like,
system. Yeah. I think in some instances, if here's I only mention this, Z, because I'm trying to run a game where you really do have to make rulings on the fly. That's Heroes Unlimited. It's
Yeah.
a Palladium game. It's not, there's some times where you have to just be prepared to describe what happens. If you put yourself, this is why I've never liked that scenario either. Oh, I'm level 7.
Yeah.
So I could be surrounded by 1,000 foot soldiers that are level 1/2 or 1/4 or level 1.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
they'll never touch me, right? Like they'll just never. And I'm like, no, you're just dead. You just died. Well, how did I die?
Yeah.
Well, a death by 1,000 cuts. I don't know. Like you describe it, but You're dead.
They piled on you, pulled your arm
Yeah.
open, and stabbed you like under
We're
the
not going to
shoulder.
roll dice. I'm not rolling 100 d20s to see
Yes.
how many of them come up with a critical hit. And oh well, I'll just heal that back. I'm like, no, you just die. Like at some point, and I think that speaks to the problem with the system is that if the system is such
Yes.
that, well, you're just a god among men and you can never be hurt by these because they're too beneath you, then I don't like that.
At this point, the world should recognize this, and the
Yeah.
forces in the world will look to gain your power or like steal it from you,
Yeah.
like killing you, eliminating you, or hiring you, right? Because you move from the realms of man to demigod.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if that is not recognized, like, oh, I'm a level 7 mercenary now instead of a level 1 adventurer,
Yeah.
then it feels goofy. It feels,
Yeah, it
feels
does.
so weird.
It does. I'd prefer to have a new character have more power, but then everything has more power. Like if I don't like this idea of I start as a 0 and then as soon as I've killed enough things, then nothing can touch me but things that are above that. Like I don't like that. I like the idea that if you can get unlucky, just like in you could be Richard the Lionhearted. You could be killed by a commoner who has a lucky shot, and I think that should exist. And I don't like the idea of I can just wade with impunity and just murder everything I see, and there's nothing they can do about it because my AC is too high. They'll never hit me, and they'd have to get a critical hit, and even then it's not. I have 1,000 hit points, so it doesn't even matter. It's whatever.
Even the opposite for the enemy. Now D&D has it famously. Okay, a skeleton, a zombie, a ghoul, a ghast, a wight. How do you know which one will fucking one-shot you? Like, is this a death
until it
knight,
happens.
or is this a skeleton in armor?
What I did when I was back in the old days and role-playing was a foreign concept to me is that I would just at random, I would have a hero of the tribe or a hero of the goblin clan. And we were playing Pathfinder First Edition. So this is a D&D 3.5 game. And what I would do is I'd have, and there would be very little indication from the outside that this guy is a level 15 barbarian with pounce and like all of these crazy feats. And I was using a software program that let me easily do that. So I could just quickly add a ton of feats and all of this stuff. And so I did that on purpose so that because I hated it when a player would see a goblin and be like, whatever, I don't even care. And then I'm like, no, the goblin does some crazy thing. And I'm like, oh, it's a goblin champion now. But like your point is, how do you know?
A goblin has 3 feats, like he's a battle-hardened warrior.
Yeah.
He survived like 5 years in the line of battle. He raided Altdorf or something,
Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. That's a different topic altogether, but I think I think have a better system where there should be some risk involved. Like maybe the risk is not as great as it once was, but you put a gun in someone's hands, even if they're not trained, there's always a chance that it could end very badly for you. Like it's
exactly.
Yeah, he's not SEAL Team 6, fair enough, but the old lady has a double barrel shotgun and you're close enough that she's probably going to hit. Like, and that should be
guns don't discriminate.
Yeah. So, but in many systems, it'd be like, wow, I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Whatever.
We play Shadowrun. We run into this problem all the time.
Yeah.
Because Shadowrun encourages you playing a badass who can shrug off bullets because you need to.
Yeah,
if you don't, you're no longer playing the game because you're dead on the floor as soon as the shooting starts.
I want it to be deadly. I want deadly.
Yes.
Yeah, always.
Like, okay, you're not a long Shadowrun. You will be dead after the first mission if you like play Shadowrun as the newbie, as like the new guy, like trying to get into it. Like, no, it's not how the rules work.
No, they
Okay.
don't. They don't. Yeah. So I think
I'll
that was
bring
it.
next
You
one.
had your any other
Oh.
clips? I think that was good. Or?
I got more. So if you got time, I got a couple more. Or
Yeah,
we can
let's
end
do it.
here.
Let's look at a couple more. I've got
Okay.
a little bit of time. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay,
Got
okay,
this
here we
one.
go. All right, let's
There,
see
the
this one.
Gen X GM, he did a couple of heroic games. I've not watched the games, but I wanted to see if there's something to showcase.
Okay, let's take a look.
They're kind of like what? Like you're in Chinatown, essentially. You're in Lachine, and you've just walked into like a Chinese restaurant, like a little mom and pop thing, like the Red Dragon of the Moonlight Pool type of place, and you look like freaks, just to be honest. But money's money, so they'll happily take your cash as you guys order a bunch of Chinese food.
Okay, you can stop it there. You can stop it there.
Yeah.
So here, what I think the takeaway for me from this is that this this to me is too much moving the characters around. You're here, you're in Chinatown, you go into the restaurant, you order the food. Okay, now
you
you
are a bunch of freaks.
Yeah, like I'd rather not. This is pretty common, and I think that for some players, this is what they're comfortable with, because again, it feels a little like having the training wheels on. You can have you don't have the players aren't saying anything, right? They're just waiting.
Yeah.
And that they're just waiting because they're waiting for the cue. Can you back it up 5 seconds and just play the last 5 seconds and just listen to how
as you guys order a bunch of Chinese food.
Keep going.
And you may role play.
Okay, stop there.
Going back?
Okay, so no, that's it. I wanted that last here. So the players haven't said anything. They need to help out their GM by telling the GM where they are and what they're doing. But there's not really, if you're going to cue the players that, okay, I'm going to move you around and then now you play. See there, because he said, okay, and you can role play now. But I would suggest that it would be preferable to train your players to do all of their own movement without being prompted by the game master. It's not his job to move you around. It's not his job. It's not Bear's job to move you around.
Yes.
And
I feel. Go ahead.
Well, I was just reading a comment here. Is the first thing a player will say be a question to the GM? Yeah, it might be. Let's watch a little bit here. Just let's watch this clip.
Okay.
And I'm going to be more critical on the players, I think, than on the on Bear on this.
Again.
Role play begin.
Mr. Blackhand, do you know of any other shadow items
staying in character
like that were taken, or could you have contacts that could possibly know that? Because most likely they'll probably go after something similar.
Okay, keep going.
Well, there's only been 2 taken so far that I'm aware of that was given to me. If there was more, I'm sure that information would have been passed.
Well, if we're looking at a private collection, though, it would depend on how secretive the collector was.
Okay, stop here for just a moment.
And that's why.
Okay, so that's fine. Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay, Sergeant Dan asked a question in character. Sorry, Aurelius, I think is his name. I can't quite make that.
Aurelius is the character.
Aurelius asked a question of Blackhand. Blackhand answered in character. Zephyros down below, he chimes in too. That's not a problem. The only thing I would suggest to make that better, and really, there's nothing wrong with this, is just they're in a Chinese food restaurant. Are they doing that sitting at the table? Whereabouts are they? Like that's my only criticism
Right.
here is I'm not clear, other than where Bear left off. I'm not clear that they've ordered food. So, you know, all I would suggest here is an anchoring, right? Like, so just I'm sitting at the table, I look over at the menu, or you know, Zephyros says that, and then he picks up the menu and be like, okay, yeah, I'll just take the chow mein. Like just do something to anchor you in the spot. Okay, let's keep watching because I'm liking this so far.
Okay.
I'm asking if you have occult contacts that would know private collectors, other more obtuse shadow artifacts that would be here in Capital City.
Not necessarily here, but I mean, I do have a contact.
He's looking up his character sheet.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
One of the consulates that I can get feelers put out at. He can talk to his folks along with it.
Okay, pause. That's fine. That's fine.
Yes.
I don't see anything wrong with this. However, it shouldn't take forever either, right?
That's
Like
the part of you try to like slowly string the words together as you look for the information frantically.
Yeah, and
the better organized the character sheet is, sometimes the system stands in your
sometimes
way.
the system is in the way. Sometimes you have a situation where and the player here may be saying, okay, I don't want to solve the obstacle by just inventing the solution, but it would make sense that I would have something. There could be something there. I'm still waiting for Jazz to be in the scene here. She hasn't said anything. Let's just watch a couple more minutes and see what happens. So far,
Because
it's
I have
been
a
good.
feeling that probably late tonight something else will be.
Okay, Dan needs to
disappearing.
stop talking. Okay, Dan has had some talking. There should still be turns involved here. Zephyros said one thing. Aurelius is doing a lot of talking back and forth with Nero Blackhand. Jazz is
Blackhand is answering to, so he
He's answering.
feels the need to answer, right?
But what I like about this is I like that the player isn't asking the GM. He's asking another character. So that's okay. Let's watch a couple minutes. I want to see what Jazz does.
Yeah, everything's been stolen at night so far.
Kind of goes with what the actual items have been, which have been things of shadow. So night kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Jazz.
You can do it.
My bedazzled lady, do you have any contacts?
Okay, good. Pause it. That's good. Okay.
Yes.
This is a good practice. If you're at the table and you have a player that should have had a turn and hasn't had a turn, then you can prompt their turn in character. Aurelius asked in character what Jazz, I'm assuming bedazzled lady is her, that she has a contact. And notice that Bear hasn't said anything yet, which is good. He shouldn't be saying anything. This is good. He's not chimed in. So, and it's easy to chime in here because normally in normal games, you would have the GM jump in and say, you know this about the shadows, and you know this guy, and you know this, he's staying quiet. Let's watch. Let's see how Jazz handles the passing of the baton, the turn to her. Let's see how she does.
So what I want is, okay, the basketball is thrown to her. Do a dribble and push it back.
Yeah, she should.
That would know anything about this.
Yeah. Okay. Here she goes. Take a chance. Just take a chance.
I kind of just fell into this truthfully.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You guys know more than I do, and
she's speaking in character. That's okay.
It seems a little bit more on the spooky side, so I think those weird ladies that showed up at my apartment, or do they have something to do with it?
Okay.
Did
I
she
think that's
ask?
fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's
She
fine.
brought in a detail about like
It's okay.
shadowing
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So the only verbing here that in this clip that we've watched was just at the very beginning. And if this was the very start of a game session, just like my
It
description
could
of
be. Could be.
if it was the very start, then I think that gets a pass because it's fine to tell people where they start the game session. Then the issue here is that they're a little bit of floating head, as Max points out. Where are they in the restaurant? Are they in a booth? Are they in a it's up to them to describe where they are. Is she drinking? Is she looking? Is she taking a glass of water? Is she looking over the menu? Is she waving down a like? Have you put the napkin in your lap? Like something to indicate that you're seated. You're sat at a table.
Yeah.
And you're
seated.
in a restaurant, seated at a table. All right. So, at any rate, that's a good clip. Because they did stay in character to their credit, which was good. And the game master didn't just jump in and fill in blanks. Don't jump in and fill in blanks. It's training wheels behavior. Don't do that.
Now, in the best case scene, you've already established that you guys can role play. Like, I don't have to tell you. Now comes the role play part of the game.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you don't have to.
If you can remove that from the table, because it doesn't add value to the game.
That's true.
All you need to do is communicate with the players.
Yes.
And if you know your players a little bit, so this is the session issue 2. So you've had a session before. I hope that they can make it a bit more natural when they're supposed to role play. And what I started doing with Nicholas when we started gaming is I moved my hands like to show it's I'm passing it back or I pass it on my turn. So they know it's like, oh, I'm not looking to talk.
Yeah.
I'm looking for somebody else to react now.
And they did. There's some good movement here because there was concern that there was what may be a passive player that's just not really involved, and I don't know, maybe she's not. And we're just taking a brief snapshot. It could be that she's very involved in other parts of the session. But I liked how Sergeant Dan here playing Aurelius, he passed it over to Ashley playing Jazz. And she was able to respond, and it's totally fine for her to say, "No, Jazz has no clue. Like, I have no clue what's going on." All right, so you have another clip, or is anything else you want to comment on?
Yes, I wanted to comment on Mr. Bear doing the start of you enter, you are here, you look like a bunch of freaks. Like he made a bunch. I mean, he made a bunch of views. Like as we established, if it's the start,
that's totally fine. Yeah, totally fine.
The other thing I've noticed, it felt like a habit, like this. He said like a lot of and likes, and like it's like this, it's like that. Just describe how it is, and that can be harder sometimes because you build habits of how to describe something. So you have to break them first before you can establish the new one of you enter the store. People look at you like a bunch of freaks in capes and spandex, letting you sit down. Go ahead and role play. Like setting the scene a bit. You can throw in the role play if your players need a little push or unsure when to start.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the next one. That was a good clip. I'm glad you chose that one. That was a good one.
Thank you. All right. Okay. This is the last one.
Shauner's comment. That includes us, by the way, Shauner. You're
What?
yeah. We do a lot of actual plays, Shauner. You do realize that.
I'm not sure. All I see are broken people in AP's show. In AP's? What is AP?
Actual plays. Actual plays.
Oh.
Game sessions. But we do a lot of
Sometimes-
game sessions, so I'm saying,
Yes.
Sean, you're kind of
But
You're hurting
sometimes
me,
you
man.
sit there, right? Like, and you look at the camera, you look like left and right,
Mhm.
and it always feels like, is it my turn? Can I do something?
Oh, we in our first
Yeah.
actual plays, Z, you may have watched some of them. We constantly are talking over one another, and we're interrupting, and I'm talking way too much, and I'm not giving Rick a turn, and I'm interrupting others. We've been struggling to do more round robin because I think round
Yeah.
robin is like just making sure that everyone has a turn. And
It's hard because you have to, at one point, you want to say character because
Yeah.
you enjoy it, it's cool, and you want to flow naturally, the conversation between
Sure.
you and the other player. But then you have a third player at the table, and he's
Well,
left out. And he's left
yeah.
out for like 4 turns each, so it's 8 turns until he gets to say his piece. That could
Sure.
already be 4 minutes. And
Well,
that
it could
can
be,
happen
but
so quickly.
see, like, think about real life. Let's say you have some
Yes.
some friends over to your house.
Yes.
If you have a conversation in real life, it's just good manners to ensure that everyone has a chance to say something. Like that's just
Yeah.
good manners. So and if in a dialogue setting in the game, it should feel like it's a real life dialogue. And in real life dialogue,
Absolutely.
when you're having a conversation, it would be weird if if we didn't pause to acknowledge that someone hasn't said anything for a while. People will turn to him and say, "What do you think? How about, hey, you had something happen to you like this?" And like, what do you like? Just being a conversationalist. So practicing some conversation skills in real life should inform what dialogue feels like in your game. Your game's dialogue should feel like real conversations. They shouldn't be these artificial. Anyway, yeah, and anchoring skip helped a lot.
Yes.
It does. That's a very, very, very good tool. Once you say, I pick
Yeah.
up the menu at the Chinese food place, that's a cue to everyone else that he's looking at the menu. So obviously he's not going to be saying the next thing. I'm reading the menu. What looks good
Yeah.
here? You know, like I'm looking at the menu. Anyway,
Absolutely.
another clip. Let's go to the next one. That was a great one. I'm excited to see what the last one is that you've picked.
Too many compliments. I can't take. It's like, no, come on. It cannot be that great.
Well, it was average. Okay, we'll say it's average. Let's see what this one is. Oh no. Okay, here we go. What was this?
Yes.
One? Bertrand. Oh, Prosper.
I doubt it's that. There's about 15 scalds all over town doing that show right now.
Yeah, ours going to be better. I'm looking around for somebody I can
As
know.
you get into the main street,
okay,
there
stop there.
are
So
Okay.
Phil is he's as you get into the main street, he's describing the movement of Bertrand. Bertrand is Max's character. I
Yes.
think here in this case, I would have you could, if you're looking for something to and understand, I think Phil is top notch, absolutely top notch. I think though he could have simply said a busy thoroughfare. It's a bit, or just say it's a busy thoroughfare. Carts, pedestrians cross all over the place. And
Now,
oh yes, that's right. Sorry, you know that's a very important point that Max just said.
which
Bertrand's being led, so
yes,
he's being led by a guard. So so Phil gets a pass with this. He has a pass here because he is moving Bertrand around because
Now-
Bertrand's been
Yeah.
arrested. That's a pass, I think. Yeah. Good point. I'm glad you reminded me of that because I was just going on what I
Could have
heard.
been something done with that. I was also thinking in like, I forgot the guard, but I knew that Bertrand is the one moving, or if he's being moved, like his character is still walking. So how do you describe as a GM when the scenery changes? Because the character, he's talking, he's walking, but if something changes, the GM should bring up the important information.
Yes,
like,
bring up the important information. You pass, or a gate leads into the upper, like the higher. Sue me. 8 minutes fine. So you're sued. Calling my solicitor right now. So you have to make sure, like, you have to mention that the buildings, the quality of the buildings shifts. We're now, or something like that, like just some kind of indication.
I struggle with that too. I was trying to think, how would I do it? Because I feel like it's reasonable to describe the street, like the new street being crossed, because it's new information the player should know. But how would I phrase that differently? And I came up with, like, I show it to Crispy and let him figure it out.
Well, I would say use landmarks. Use a landmark.
Yes.
A beautiful marble fountain with water that's cascading over it. Some ladies in fine dresses and parasols walk by. The gardeners are trimming the hedge of a large manor, something like that. So to give a different flavor from the rough and tumble market side of things, we're going to start with this some kind of landmark that could then be used as a trigger to, oh, right, this is the marble fountain of the mermaids frolicking, and it's white marble and clean, and there's people picking up any kind of garbage and sweeping, and so
I like this a lot. Now we can roleplay. It doesn't work. Doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Oh, I can see why. I think that I'm going to give them
you can roleplay implies moments where you can't roleplay.
Where you can't roleplay.
I don't like that.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that if it was the beginning of the session and you were just starting off, then it's essentially passing. Okay, here's where you are. You're in a Chinese food restaurant in Chinatown. You stand out like a sore thumb in this restaurant. You go. Like, just, all right, go. But I do agree that it all should be role play as much as possible, as much as you can do.
I also feel like it feels like part of the Bear's like the way he talks and talks when he plays games, like he likes to
be a style
to do it like that. Yes, his style.
Style.
So for me, it would be like something to clarify, like, are we role playing the whole thing, or are we like playing a 2D game? Do you want to try out the system? Do you want to role play?
Yeah.
Or like, are we switching between combats and role play back and forth all the time?
Yes.
Because if I know, then I can settle my expectations and adapt. If I don't know, I will feel disappointed.
Disappointing. Okay, let's watch some more of this session here. Is that all you wanted to say? Was just that you? And let's watch a little more of how Phil does.
Yeah, let's watch a bit more.
It's a busy thoroughfare, walking up and down. This is
like this
typically where there are a lot of places to eat and other sort of general goods.
Yes, street stalls
are able to be purchased on this road. So there's a lot of people.
I'm looking around. I see like this big fat bourgeois that I know.
Max,
and
of course, you're gonna call him a bourgeois.
I don't know what that is.
It's me, Jean, the actor from Down the Dock.
The wealthy
Remember,
class.
you sponsored a show from us.
This is good. This is
gentleman
him
that
creating it on the fly. It's so good. He's just creating this.
Yes. Yeah, it's so awesome.
But he created this. And now watch how Phil role plays this character. That It's
I
just so
love
good.
Phil was also like looking for words to describe things. He's like pulling on it, like repeating himself a couple of times.
Sure.
And
It's
Mr.
normal.
Max is like, oh, I see. He needs to know what's in the street. I will let him know what's in the street.
I'm not just like a criminal, like to be treated like a criminal.
I think. Look at Max. He's like, okay, where are you going to go with this?
We should pick up the pace, Prosper, before we lose track of them. It's gonna
Osman,
there's a lot of people there.
Just had a thought.
I love it.
Given the amount of people, you know the shortcuts. You know the city well. Can we get ahead of these guys?
I don't know the city that well, but
well, I can tell you, I know the cut purses in this particular part of this avenue. I know they're.
But I have a good feeling if we make a turn here that we might get there.
All right.
Might get ahead of them.
Lead the way.
A fat, bearded man with a
So good.
ponytail, curly hair.
Now he's fat.
Says, Bertrand.
I love
He
this
starts
guy.
walking over towards you.
I pulled my head down.
So good. Oh man.
Bertrand, what do you mean? This man is a troubadour of the highest order. What has he done wrong? I'll pay whatever fee is necessary for him to be released.
Thank you, Robert.
They say it's not a matter of whether he owes a paltry fee. Citizen, step back, please. He says, "Oh, you can't tell me what to do."
I whispered to the guard, like I lean over him and I whispered to him, like the one that just spoke. I say, you know, your boss, they don't know that you caught me yet.
He says, that's the problem. There's a pretty good reward for you. And then he waves his hand. You notice that there are two other pairs.
Stop there for a second.
Cards.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary to say you notice. That's some verbing there. I would just say two other guards from the periphery come in. You just don't say you notice. Like just that's slipping a little back into that verbing. But let's just watch a little more just because it's so good. Man, Phil is
It's
so
so
good at this.
fun.
He's so good at these NPCs.
Asking questions of other people on the street. They see him and they wave back and they start to converge on where you're at.
May I ask how much the reward is?
He says 500 crowns.
Oh wow. I don't think I'm worth that.
Now, I'm 100% sure you guys have no idea how much is money worth. In
That
the
is
world.
exactly right, Z. We had no clue, but we role played it like it was a princely
king's
sum.
ransom.
Like it could have been,
Yes.
it could have been like $150 fine, but we're pretending like it's this astronomical sum, and then Phil just rolls with it. It's so good. All right, that's a great clip.
The way he says 500 crown. That sounds
500
okay.
crowns.
This god is impressed by the sum, that he takes it very serious and has backup ready.
He does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And then Max immediately is like, "Oh, forget it. 500 crowns. Like that's just too much." I thought it was so good.
I'm so fucked.
Yeah, he right away. He's like, "Oh, well, that's it." You know, like he throws
I
up
need
his
to
hands.
leave town.
Yeah,
It's time
it's
to
over.
bail.
It's over. It's over. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good clip.
I love it.
That's a good clip.
Action. Cut. All right. What is the term for bourgeois in English?
I think he looked it up.
A
yeah.
burger.
Burger.
Yeah. I'm usually against GM
I am
role-playing
too.
with themselves.
Yeah, what Max is referring to is you don't want to be in a situation too often where you're voicing two NPCs talking to one another. That's this weird, like we're all just watching you do two back and forth with yourself. Like that's
yes.
You're better to take a step back from that and just maybe give a description of the guard and the promoter, the fat, Robert, the promoter, start bickering back and forth and posturing, and then let a player say something like, don't. But Phil is so good at it that it doesn't feel weird. He just keeps it going. And yeah, so good.
Because what my problem is with that is you can take it can take minutes to describe something, but you anchor two NPCs, you anchor both, talking back and forth a couple of sentences.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
sometimes you want to do that to convey information
Yes.
for the player characters to know, like, oh, this is key information. Good that I've overheard this.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's like, why is the player even interested in hearing this?
Right.
For me, I would be like, well, I look over what these guys are talking about, and then I can drop a hint, or I can say they talk about like their banana splits they're eating. Cut it short. What
Just
the
cut it
conversation
short.
is about.
Yeah. But yeah, Phil's so good at that.
Yes.
Anyway, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good
There we
stuff.
go.
So fun. Oh, that was great. I really liked that session. That was fantastic. And at that point, it looked very much like Max's character, Bertrand, was going to be locked up. Like, we talked about it afterwards. Like, so Max is just going to jail. Like, that's the play here. Yeah, he's just going to jail. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. Good stuff.
I love it. I want him to run away in his shackles, jump a wall, like dive into the river, like hitch a ride on a, what's it called? Like on a wagon, like horse cart, anything. I like it. Like, instead, he foredeed a contact. And it's like a passing contact. Like, he doesn't know this guy very well or intimately.
No.
But it's like, okay, this guy, he's bourgeois, so he's upper class, rich enough to be that the police don't want to, like, what's the word, like, harass him about it, like, or ignore him out of hand.
What I really liked about
the police
that,
want to keep a level of respect.
Yeah, they do. But what was so good about it is that Max, when he introduces Robert, he changes the name of his character to try to be like, look, you got the wrong guy. But then, then Phil, he immediately is like, oh, Bertrand. He's like, no. It was so good. It was one of those things that happen when you're in character that's just hysterically funny. Like, it's just so funny. And it's not because he was trying to be funny. It's not that Max was, he was cracking wise. He was very witty, and he was doing some 1980s pop culture reference, or he was, none of that. It was hysterical because of the circumstances that they were in. He was arrested trying to convince the cops the whole time, the city guard, that he wasn't that guy. And so he spots someone, he knows him, and then Phil, instead of playing along with the deception for the guards, he's immediately like, oh, I know this guy. He's the best. It's Bertrand. He's the best troubadour in the city. And anyway, I thought it was so.
Yeah, he's an entertainer. Why is he being arrested? Like, he doesn't look drunk to me. What's happening here?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So good.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I love that scene. That's such a good
one. Always fun. So, of course, looking for clips of different GMs from different games. Some crossover, some comparison notes from different streams.
Let's see.
So,
yep. That's good.
Okay, shot. Most social contracts remove any aspect of role play from. Oh, I see. People agree to board game, basically. That's a commonplace.
I think so. Unfortunately, it's not. Like, what I tell, I have some family that one, I guess he's a brother-in-law. He's married to my sister-in-law, and he loves to play D&D 5th edition. and he's got his own game group. He doesn't live near me. And when I told him what we're doing now, he's like, oh, that's way too hardcore. I can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, and I said to him, like, we're in character the whole session. And he's like, well, how do you do that? It's just so foreign to most gaming tables. They just aren't, they wouldn't even consider it. Then when I describe it to him, he's like, oh, no, we're not doing that. They're just talking about how to win using the game.
Exactly.
Like it's very much just a back to the wargaming roots, I suppose, of the hobby.
Yeah.
But that's not what
I've had
makes
this
it attractive to me. The wargaming aspect is not what I find the most engaging. There's better war games. You should just play one of those. Like there are better ones than D&D.
Yeah. Especially with computer games, that there are so many cool things you can do.
Totally.
But also just like playing a board game itself can be a lot of fun.
Sure.
It's like,
I love board games.
do you want to play Pathfinder as a board game? And then you find out you spend half an hour like adjudicating modifier rolls.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Where did you get that next
influence.
+1? Oh, I need another +1 here. Can I get another
like
+1?
I'm standing on the table. This gives me a +1, right?
Yeah,
like
I'm higher ground. I
well,
got a
sure,
+1.
but roll an athletics check to jump on the table first. Like if you
Yeah.
want to do that, it's like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. If I can fail, it's like,
Well, maybe I won't
can
do
I
that.
jump on the chair instead of?
Can I go on the chair? What if I were to do this? I'm like, what? Huh? It seems
Which
so
action
artificial
can
to me
I-
now. It
Exactly,
just
exactly.
feels like it's, and that's supposedly a
Remove-
simulation game. Like how is that a simulation game? Like it's just
What is being simulated? The rule slurring at the table, like bean counting is being simulated.
I just don't think those kind of calculate, like in a real world. Like let's say we're involved in a bar fight. I don't think those kind of calculations enter into the head when you're in. If any of us that have been unfortunate enough to be in a combats, like a fisticuffs kind of a fight in the playground, on the whatever, on the street, it doesn't. You don't do. It's just. It should be. It feels like the adrenaline's up and everyone's tempers are high and decision making is poor, and you just, what happens. You don't have this chance of like, well, if I were to do this and then go this, and it's just like this infinite strategizing for something that should be within seconds. Like even like most of these games, how long is a round? A round is how long exactly? Why is it that we're having a conference meeting to determine what the next 6 seconds of the game is going to be?
Yes.
It shouldn't be that way. It should be as real time as possible. Oh, I got something in my eye. It should be as real. It should be very quick is what I'm trying to get at.
Exactly, because you want to keep the pace moving.
Yeah.
You want the players to like stay in character, stay immersed, like feel the tension. Because when you start the combats and everything has to slow down to tactically negotiate like how to win the combats, you remove the tension. Like the tension is gone now, but the players can still die. So now you have players waiting, tension gone. They die to a spell that crits or something, and now they're disappointed because instead of being in the action, it's like taking the fireball to the face and going up in flames. That's awesome. That's cool. That gives a bunch of range. And then it's the player's turn, and the player can describe like his last scene of like running around the flames. Maybe he like even sets the carpet on fire during it, like falls on the floor.
Sure. Exactly. Like Max says here, it's the fear of the suboptimal decision. Oh, I can't do that because if I do that, then I could have done something so much better. I still have I think maybe one player in particular. He's paralyzed by this fear of not doing the absolute best thing every round. And I'm like,
the addition to this is because the GM will kill me if I don't, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And because it's like, and I think that's actually what you said there made me think that perhaps this is trained behavior. Because if you're
Yeah.
in the habit as a game master of giving people options, then you're telling them there is one option that's probably the optimal one, the better one.
Is this a good option? And all the other ones, I will punish you.
I'll punish
But
you
you
on
have to
these others.
choose.
But you have
And the
to
players will
choose.
be like, yes, exactly. Yeah.
But now I have to guess which one that is, and that's just too stressful. And I don't know. I'll just magic missile, whatever. I'll just magic missile, like or whatever. Like it just is a anyway. And I think that's trained behavior. I think that's because of verbing and the habit of verbing. When we do that, we are inadvertently crippling the imagination of the player. We're hamstringing them so that instead of really pushing their own boundaries of imagination, we're limiting them to what we think. Right?
Yeah.
Like this, it's all my ideas. And as egotistical as I am, that'll never result in an optimal game, because an optimal game isn't where all of the decisions were optimal. No, it's where everyone was role playing their character the whole time. That's optimal. Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah, I absolutely. I feel like
soapbox.
for a GMs watching this out there thinking, I would say, think about the priorities at your table. The priority is not leading them through the adventure module Tourney of Dragons. It's not about like running this one shot you have prepared. It's about giving your players agency to do what they want. And if you are afraid that you don't know where they will take it, you have to talk about the session 0. Like, guys, I want to run this dungeon. So you can do whatever you want, but it includes getting in the dungeon first.
Yes, of course. Of course.
So if you have characters, think about why they are in the dungeon. And if all they can think about is, well, I wouldn't be in the dungeon, then you have that conversation of, well, come up with a character who does.
Maybe you haven't made a character for this game. Why don't we start with that? Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been an interesting conversation. Z, do you have any closing thoughts or anything that we've kind of meandered all over the topic? But the topic again is the verbing, like avoiding getting into that second person habit of putting the training wheels on your players and limiting them to what you think is the best option by moving them around or telling them what they're doing, or just try to avoid it.
There is this conundrum that I see happening. It's happening with my friends of, I'm telling them basically it's both easy and hard, because it's the easiest thing to role play, to like be your character and just do as your character would act. But the hard part is like throwing the ball back and forth and building this dynamic. And how do I catch these curveballs and throw them back? That takes training, that takes effort.
Sure does.
And it can be very mentally straining, because now you're no longer relying on a pamphlet, on your 20 pages prepared out of the chapter from the adventure book. Because people rely on those to remove the strain.
Yes.
Right? But it's supposed to be easier to just role play it out.
Yes.
And that is where, like, I tell my friends it's easy, we can do it. But I also tell them, well, I don't know if you guys can do it. It's like, so I am sending mixed signals here.
It's easy, but you probably won't get it.
It's easy, but not for you.
Like, for you, it's really hard.
Am I insulting them now? They're like role
right.
players doing it for 12 years, like literally role playing at conventions like Pathfinder sessions, official Pathfinder sessions from
Pathfinder
the
Society, the
Pathfinder Society, all of that stuff. Like, they know people, they know how to role play, they know the rules, they know like couple dozen different role playing games. Well, this is the thing that makes me think twice about like playing with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. So that's a conundrum. If we can we solve this in the next 5 minutes?
I don't, you know what? I would say it's different. It's not that it's, I wouldn't say that it's easy. I think that the message should be, this is a different way. In
Yes.
some ways it's going to be easier. In other ways it's going to be much more challenging. Let's try it. This is the way I sold it. The way I sold role playing to my group is I went to them and I said to them, I'm very concerned that I had a bit of a epiphany when I was watching Shauner's critiques, which is why I still think that they're very worthwhile. I had this epiphany that I was the only one role playing all of the characters in the game, and I had taken away all of the player agency in my group. And so when I went to my players and explained to them what I wanted to change, I positioned it. So my pitch to them was, I want to return the maximum possible amount of agency for your characters to you. I don't want to move your characters. I don't want to tell you what your characters are doing. I want you to take all of that. I have been quietly and over many years wresting away from you all of your ability to truly embody your characters and decide what your characters do. And I've been taking that away from you through small decisions over time and habits that have crept in. And when I explained it to them that way, no one came back to me and said, well, you know, I'm not okay with this. I'd rather you just control everything still. Like nobody. So it was an effective pitch, sales pitch. And to this day, it continues to be the main touch point that I'll come back to say, all right, you're asking me to move you around. Remember what I said. I don't move you around. You play your guys. I play my guys. There shouldn't be crossover on this. And that's it. So in that sense, it's kind of an easy pitch, because the message to the players is, I want you to have more autonomy. I want you to have more degrees of freedom. I want you to have more agency for your character, not less. It's hard to sell someone on a new thing by saying this is going to be less for you. Like, that's not a good sales pitch. If you've done any sales training at all, you're not going to close a deal by continually telling them you're going to get less out of this than you wanted. By saying to them
you
want
highlight
more.
The strengths.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't, and to be fair, Z, I didn't really talk about all the hard things that were going to come from this, because I was like, you know what, let's just get buy-in first. The buy-in is, I want to have more degrees of freedom. I want to embody this character the way I feel it should be, and not what someone else thinks this character should be. Once we have a common goal in that aspect, then we can tackle the problems as they come up as a conversation between us. So the players say, well, we used to do it this way, but this new way we're playing, that doesn't really work. What are some of the things we can do to try to fix this? Like, for example, we're asking, you're still in the habit of asking me out of character questions as the game master. So, do I know if the door is locked? Do I know if this, or is the door locked, or is this, or can I see a fire hydrant, or all of these out of character questions to me, as if I was there and I'm not there. How do we fix that? And then that's a really hard habit to break. That's going to be a challenge, especially for those that have gamed for a long time, because they're just so used to it. It's common language. But it's possible to train away from that, especially if they're like, no, it's worth it, because at the end of the day, the GM is telling me that he wants me to have more freedom, not less. So
it's giving players confidence back. It's giving them agency back. Like,
and
I will not stop you. You will do the thing.
You will do the thing.
If something stops you, the world will try to like impose itself,
That's right.
and the players can rest easy that it's I'm no longer fighting the GM, who is both organizing everything
Right.
and knowing all of the rules and then using those rules against me. No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now it's the world.
It's the
And
world.
you're on a mission. You're on a mission to prove the world wrong, to get the thing, save the princess, like steal the Maltese Falcon, do whatever you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that was my pitch. It may not work for everyone's table, but it worked really well for my group. And we had been gaming on a weekly basis for, I think at that point, the time when this switch for me hasn't been very long, Z. Like I haven't really been focused on role play. I don't even think it's been a year yet. Like we may be coming up on a year shortly, but it's not even a year. And
slowly.
So we had like
Strongholds and
17
followers game.
Yeah, that's right. So like
Castles and
17
Crusaders,
years as a
right?
weekly game at my house. 17 years every
Wow.
week with very few cancellations, all that time. And we switched over, and the feedback immediately, like even after the first session where I'm like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. And it's going to feel weird at first, but there's a goal in mind. And the goal is that freedom thing that I was telling you about. That after that first session, everyone didn't want to leave the house. They were all like, you know what? This felt so different. It felt so much better. It's so much better. I honestly think, and I have received criticism from all sorts of people about this. I think that if you can show someone, or even better, have someone experience role play in a role-playing game, actual role play as the hard way, as we describe it, they'll never go back. When they go back, they don't like it. That's what happened in my group. And again, we had been weekly gamers for 18 years, and we had 1 or 2 sessions where it did, and then of course, then it got hard, and I was discouraged, and it's still, we're still challenged by a lot of things, Z, but there's no going back. Like once you've discovered the promised land, you can't go back. You really can't. It's just too much.
It's like, I just imagine this to be like, oh, you're experiencing Japanese cuisine for the first time. You didn't know this existed before.
Yeah.
And now you can't stop. Like, it's amazing.
I'm like, what are these? Yakisoba noodles? I can't stop eating them. Why can't I stop eating them? Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
So it's, you know what? It's that's my thing. My whole shtick is, role play will make it better. Like when you actually get into the role play side of things, it makes it way better. Otherwise, I think you'd probably be better suited just playing a board game that is a dungeon crawl. There's lots of dungeon crawl board games now. Just go play one of those. You'll have a great time. There's lots of them available. The old, what were they called? There's a number of them. I even bought one of them for the minis and the maps back when that was important to me. And I think it was called Descent is what the game was. So there's all sorts out there.
It's so weird because I have a board game called Mage Knights.
I have that one too.
I got it gifted from my brother, and I told my RPG buddies about it. Hey, why don't you come over and like play Mage Knight with me? It's like, let's do a board game instead. They said, "Oh, I hate this one. It's the worst. It's the worst board game ever."
Oh, really? Oh.
And I'm so sad. It's like, guys, this is what you always wanted, right? Like, you want the board game, you want to move the minis.
That's true. That's true.
Like, go in depth, like play for many hours. Like, it's not a wasted evening or anything. It's like,
or like, what are people looking for? Like,
are
honestly, are people really just looking to be told a story? Like, that's
sometimes. So for my table, this is the problem I have. I want my players to be proactive. I want them to be involved in creating the scenario, the session 0. But what they want is that we set a date, And
Right.
then I tell them, build a character for this scenario, and I prep the scenario. And so now I am getting all of this. I have to do all of this prep for characters I don't know that that I could not have been able to involve my players to create because they want to show up in the evening and play. So I have no session 0 because by the time we meet, I drive over 1.5 hours. We play 4 or 5 hours. I drive back 1.5 hours. It's the whole day gone.
Yeah.
So to squeeze in a session 0 beforehand would be very hard.
Yeah.
And whatever I prep will not be good enough. That's how I have reconciled it in my head.
Sure.
Whatever I prepare will not be good enough because I don't know what the players want. This is why I want the session 0. This is why right now I've stopped running games for the moment because I don't want to run anything that I have to prep without sitting on the table with them.
Yeah.
So and that's the barrier. My friends, they don't want to organize to sit in a Discord together with video cam on and creating something together they want to play, like build the characters, pick a rule set. They don't want to do that. They want to sit down and play. And for me, I don't want to sit down and prep. That's the most boring part.
Yes, it is.
Drains me of my creatives, of my desire to create something. It drains me because I have to learn the roles. I have to prep something that is balanced and fair. Like I have to create all these NPCs that are interesting.
Right.
And as soon as we start, then they are supposed to take over and derail it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. It's a shame too, because in my in-person group, we started doing session 0s. And we do a session 0 much like we do online. We're creating the world together. And the guys love that. They love that. We'd never done that before. This is a new development. And because before I would just do hours of prep like you're describing, and they'd show up and then they'd have their characters and then we would just run through my hours of prep. But now we don't do any of that. We don't do any of that. We'll do a session 0 where all of us together create the characters, create the world. We ask questions about, well, what about this? Well, we're playing a superhero game. How prevalent are superheroes? What's their relationship with the law? What's their relationship with society in general? Are they idolized? Are they feared? What about prevalence? How many are there? These are all decisions that we made as a group so that everyone knew the answers to them, so that we're not starting play with them saying, so what's our relationship with the cops again? Like, how do we
exactly? This is what I want to do because I really enjoy Shadowrun. It's a fun setting. It's like full of dangers and gangs and megacorps, and you are the one caught in between trying to eke out a living. And I want to be able to sit down with my players and, guys, we have to establish the city we play in because every time we change GM, but we keep the city changes and morphs to whatever is suited, but it's never the same. We've played over 100 sessions in Hamburg, but the city is never the same. I don't know if it's evolving. Is it devolving? Is it like what's happening with the nobilities we've killed along the way or the companies we've taken out? How did it change the landscape? Never affects anything, but to come because we don't always play together. We easily had over 50 to 100 sessions together in this location, and I feel no change. And that's the thing of tell me what are the factions important to you. All the other factions still exist, but we don't keep track of those. Like, do you want to be involved with the Yakuza or with the Russians? Do you want your contacts involved? How are your contacts involved? Because you can spend karma for them to improve them.
Right.
So, and it's a great point to build relationships between characters and NPCs to make the world more alive. Because if something goes down in Avenue, 16th Avenue, where you and contact is living, he will let you know, like, shit is going down over here. Like, I'm being compromised in my ability to help you.
Right.
So now we can have a Shadowrun. We can set up a Shadowrun together that helps the characters and gets them paid. Maybe they can look out for contracts and stuff like that. But instead, right now, our players, or when I play, it's we show up, and you have a run prepared, and because we don't know which Shadowrunner we play, because we come with 3 to 4 different Shadowrunners characters that we have, and we go through the list, which combination would kind of make sense to run tonight, so that we have a mage, we have a fighter, we have a hacker type deal.
Yeah.
So whatever we run, it will never be fitting for the characters.
Which edition of Shadowrun are you running?
The fifth edition we play
Fifth
right
edition?
now.
Okay.
Yeah, for the last 5-6 years easily.
Oh wow.
6th edition is I'm not even looking at it. It's, from what I know, it's trash.
I have that one. I just saw
I would
it.
have to play it, but
I have it, but I've read it through. I've never run it. I'm from the old 2nd edition. Like I played Shadowrun when it was 2nd edition, and I was still in high school back then. And I enjoyed it, but like you said, unfortunately, it was a group that just couldn't stay together. They couldn't. Looking back at it now, I can see they had some problem players. they had people there that may have been me. I don't know.
It encourages playing characters that are assholes.
Yes, it
which
does.
makes really
Super
really hard
selfish.
to role play.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also felt like it wasn't, and this is just my experience with it. The individual adventures were too similar to each other. Like, so in other words, each run was, I mean, you can change some of the details, but the overall is the same. It's just doing the same thing again and again and again. There wasn't
what is
a
the
lot.
twist?
Yeah, there's not a lot of. So for me, I didn't see a lot of replayability in it. But then when I saw there was a new Shadowrun in my local game store where I get all my books, or I try to get most of my books there, they brought in the Shadowrun. I'm like, oh, Shadowrun! There's a new Shadowrun. Like, without looking into it at all, I was like, I'm buying it. So I bought this Shadowrun, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna play this. And I read through the book, and I'm like, this isn't like I remember. This is a different Shadowrun now. But, oh well.
Yeah, so I would say 5th edition is definitely the old school ways of doing rules. Like every book has some more rules, or like you get more items with modifications, changing numbers, and it makes it very hard to run and play because the players are not gonna they can barely remember what a knife does. How will they remember what a tuned out like shotgun does from this extra third-party book? It's not even using shotgun shells. It's using normal bullets for some reason.
Oh boy.
It's like you got those weird combinations at all times. The same, similar with magic, similar with being an adept. And we run into the problem of, well, balancing is out the window because some characters are just overpowered.
Yes.
And other characters cannot be powerful enough. It's not possible.
Right. Yeah.
Because they have a specialty that they have to specialize.
Right.
And some classes are easier to do because of the way karma and money works inside the system.
Yeah.
Like the adept is very easy. As long as you play, you get better every session you play. So if you play 20 sessions, you're awesome. But if you play a rigger, the guy with the drones that is checked into the car driving around, if you play that guy, it's a money hole. It disappears into nothingness. And you still have to improve your skills to be technical. But you have to decide, do I drive cars? Do I drive vehicles? Do I fly drones? Or do I even want to have swimming drones? Because those are different skills as well. And you have to like specialize into many. It's the thing of, how would I describe it? Imagine Traveler, but one guy needs like 3 skills and the other guy needs 12 skills, but they're both supposed to be competent. It's very easy to land in this in this trap.
Yeah, that doesn't give me a lot of competency. Yeah.
Well, so my wife, she is the one who will go on Reddit and Shadowrun and say, I just found out that your American rule books is completely trash. Here is the corrected German edition that fixed this problem. So if you change these modifiers, it should be balanced again. And the Americans will be like, I never knew. This is so awesome. And they will
Really?
Yes, they will add these things in. We use a Jammer app for the PC to build the character sheets because it's so many details to keep track of. A program is so much better at this than trying to juggle your rule books.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a fun conversation, Z. I think we covered a lot of ground. It was good. Yeah, those are good clips that you picked.
Oh, wow.
I like them.
Thank
that
you.
was great. And I know you're several hours ahead of myself, so it's getting into the wee hours of the morning over there. And so I should probably let you go. But I've enjoyed our conversation. And thanks for inviting me on. It was a lot of fun. It was good.
Fantastic.
We'll have to do a 4D Shadowrun game at some point. Probably not possible with that system, but anyway, we'll have to try. We'll do Shadowrun, but use a different game system.
We can do like a training run, and we will allow to ask some rules questions if you think it's really important. But like a 4D training or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Too many rules stacked, so we will have to establish rules on which rules to use.
Exactly. So true.
All right.
Good.
Thank you guys for joining the aftermath of the roleplay crimes being committed here. Not too many. Most are pretty benign.
Yep. I don't think that we got into the red zone too often. I think it was green, amber. That was
only Critical Role failed completely, but
well, that's because he was wearing a graphic tee with a vest. You don't do that. That's
it's crime against fashion. That's for the other district. Like we
That's
we don't deal with that jurisdiction here.
That's true.
All right. Thank you guys for joining. Crispy does have a YouTube channel.
I do, yeah. You'll find me at Table Runner, and it's Table Runner Crispy. But you'll find me at Table Runner, and come join me. I've got a bunch of videos on there of various quality, but hopefully something that'll be of use to someone out there.
Fantastic. So have a good night, guys.
See ya.